It has been 9 days since I finished the tomato pepper bed. Today we're going to do an update because some things have happened and a harvest, so stay tuned. I was doing some research about tomato diseases because I wanted to identify what was going on that I discovered when I set up this bed. This fungal disease, I believe, is Septoria leaf spot, which is very common in Michigan, and of course this is Illinois. We're not too far away. This is typical. These little brown spots, and eventually it takes over the whole leaf. These leaves and stems must be destroyed. You cannot put them into your compost. When it's raining and it's humid, spores multiply and divide like crazy. They love that environment. So by me raising these plants up, I did give them more air because they need air. They had no air before. They were all piled on top of everything. I thought by giving them more air that this disease would not advance so quickly, but based on the research at the Michigan State University website, the fruit is not affected, so I can go ahead and harvest all of this fruit. As you can see, the leaves that are affected are now up 2/3 of the plants, and it's on all of the different varieties of tomato plants. So this tomato bed probably only has about 3 weeks of production left, and we're only at the end of July. So that's the sad news. The peppers so far look great. I don't see any diseases on the peppers. The cherry tomato varieties in this bed are still producing, and they have a lot of tomatoes towards the top. And the tomatoes are not quite ripe on the bottom, but I'm going to go ahead and get them off and take them inside. But let's take a closer look. You can't get rid of fungal disease. You can only prevent it. And one of the ways is crop rotation. So if you rotate crops every year, you wouldn't want to put tomatoes or any nightshade plant in this bed next year. Of course, there's all these preparations that you can use to spray the tomatoes: neem oil, milk spray on powdery mildew. There's many. A lot of home gardeners have come up with their own solutions to spray on plants to what I call suppress fungal disease. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, look at this culprit. This is a first. I have never discovered a turtle eating my tomatoes, ever. And I was very concerned about them being so low to the ground, but I didn't want to break the vine. Wow, wow, wow. It's a beautiful turtle. I never expected it to be a turtle eating the tomatoes. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is cut that tomato and relocate. Now, this is weird. I've got this turtle right here, and I've got a cat over here completely not even aware. He's aware of the birds. Oh yeah. And he has been driving the birds out of here. Now that turtle knows that he's been spotted, he or she, and is freezing, hoping I don't see it. And look how well it's camouflaged in that mulch. This is one of the most amazing discoveries I have had in the garden. Wow. And the cat is completely unaware. Okay, this turtle's a little bit nervous. I am not going to kill this turtle. I'm just going to relocate it. Sort of looks like bird eyes. Actually, it's very similar to a predator, like a hawk, the shape of a bird head or something. Well, that was interesting. A turtle in my vegetable bed. Well, it's not mine, but I feel like it's mine. Anyway, I learned something really interesting in my research about tomatoes that I didn't know. The tomato, botanically, is considered a fruit because the part you eat contains reproductive structures, also known as seeds. But in 1893, the United States Supreme Court changed its classification to a vegetable. And this had something to do with import tariffs. So it had nothing to do botanically. So it is a fruit, but it's called either one. Now, until 1850, people didn't eat tomatoes because they considered it poisonous. It was actually referred to as the love apple. Because it was in the nightshade family, they thought it was forbidden to eat it and that it would be toxic. But nevertheless, today, home gardeners almost always have a couple of tomato plants growing. And the tomato is one of the top 3 fruits or vegetables that people grow in their home gardens. So now I'm going to get busy harvesting the tomatoes, and after that I'm going to cut all the diseased leaves, dispose of those, and maybe count the days until these tomato plants have to come out. I've got my knee pad today. These tomatoes are not quite ripe, but I'm going to let them finish off in the kitchen. The thing about these really big tomatoes is part of it might still be hard, and part of it might already feel like it has a bruise, like right here. But hopefully I can use this much of the tomato. I'm going to let this sit for a day or two in the kitchen, and the last one that I took in that looked like this was delicious and red inside. In fact, we can discover what this one looked like. This is the one that the turtle was eating. It wasn't the only one close to the ground, but this is the one the turtle chose. And you can see the flesh is pink. This is a big boy variety. This one has released from the vine. As you can see, it's been chewed on by a few critters, so I'll let them have that. This one's rotted on the bottom because it was sitting on the ground. This one's not quite ready to take inside, and I'm going to lift it up. What happened is when I started, all of these were off the ground, and between the water making the vines and everything so heavy, so much heavier, and the twine getting wet and loosening a little bit, and I put the mulch underneath, and they wound up sitting right on the ground. That's not good. Okay, this one's already soft on one side. So it's got a big bruise here. I'm going to discard that. These two feel good. I'm going to leave them on. And this one I'm going to take. Now, if you've ever wondered what all of this is, and it can be even worse, it can get even worse, but this deformity is caused by the petals of the blossom sticking together. And of course, you know the fruit develops from the blossom, the little flower, and if it sticks together, then this forms very deformed like that. But all of these sections are still really good to eat. That one's got one little bite. Well, no, I take it back. It's got a couple of bites taken out of it, so I'm going to leave that one. So we lost a lot of fruit in this last week. And we gained some weeds. That one looks pretty good. So that can go there. And now I'm going to grab a couple of the cherry tomatoes on the inside. When you have a cluster of cherry tomatoes, the ones at the top of the spray ripen first. There are many fungal diseases that destroy the plant, and as soon as you identify it, you have to take the whole plant out and burn it. But others, you can get a crop. But what happens is the more leaves that wilt and die off these plants, the more sun hits the fruit, and you have a risk of sunburn, sun scald on the fruit itself, and that will ruin the tomatoes too. So this is the end of July, and I would say by the end of August these plants will be out of here. Okay, I think I got about 20% of those diseased leaves off, maybe 15. And there are lots of things that you can do to prevent fungal diseases and suppress them once they arise, but you can't cure them. So you learn to work with this, and you learn to recognize early signs. But before that, you plan your bed so that your plants are going to have a lot of airflow. And if you prune your plants, you give them more airflow, obviously. These plants were all grown together, laying on the ground, and of course that is a perfect storm for fungal diseases to develop, and they did with gusto, or it did with gusto. What they can't handle is nighttime comes and those leaves sit wet all night. Now you can't help it if it rains, but you certainly don't want to be spraying your tomato plants and leaving those leaves wet through the night, because that's when spores proliferate like crazy. You know, there are certain organic sprays that you can use to beat fungal diseases back. In this case, I'm just going to let this play out because I think it's too far gone. I'm sure I am responsible for spreading a lot of it just from handling all those plants on the same day, same 3 days. But it was already there. The conditions were already ripe for that to happen because the vines were all grown together and they were down on the ground where they're going to stay underneath the top surface. They're going to stay wet. I haven't even talked about rabbits. There are rabbits that live here because the owner provides a rabbit habitat in the back of dead branches and provides safety for them to live back there. And they come out here in the afternoon and you see them. There's a pair of them, and I thought they may attack the tomatoes, but turns out it was a turtle. Ideally, if you had the means and the space, a greenhouse could solve a lot of those problems, because obviously you can keep out critters, you can keep out turtles, rabbits, maybe snakes. You can keep out a lot in a greenhouse, and also you can control pests like the tomato and tobacco hornworm, for example, those moths, you can keep those out. So you have a much better chance of coming out with a good crop. And you can control the water so much better because you'll have beds that are set up with drip tape, and water will never hit those leaves overhead to spread those fungal diseases. So that's something to fantasize and dream about and plan for, and that's certainly something that I want. So I hope you're enjoying this series, and take it away, Kaye. Thanks so much for watching this channel, liking my videos, and especially sharing them with your friends. Don't forget to hit that bell for notifications, and scroll down and hit all so you don't miss out on a thing on this channel. Thanks for your support, and I'll see you in the next video. In 1893? Anyway, what was I going to say? Oh, no, you don't. Get down. Get down. That cat was trying to get the hummingbirds. No, that's not going to happen. Buck. Buck.